It is important to have a practice routine. I always talk about the fact that, what we practice is not nearly as important as how we practice. Creating a routine, creating a method of how to go about practicing is where you really get the most benefit. It's one, we have to practice our scales, we have to practice all the long tones. I mean, there are certain things we can't escape, but as we play, well, what, yeah, what I'm gonna get into something more important, but it is a matter of making sure you're practicing with the metronome, making sure that you're taking breaks when you need to. We always have to practice performing. So practicing should be the same as performing. We're always practicing music. So a lot of times if you're playing and you're practicing and you're getting fatigued, but you're going on, it's not like, it is sort of like being at the gym and working out, right? And lifting those weights and getting your muscles in shape. But the difference is that, you don't want to sound like you're fatigued. You want to sound, you want to practice as if you're performing, right? And so you need to take those breaks when you need to, and also making sure that you're practicing how to prepare your air. In other words, making sure that when you're taking a breath, that you're not only taking a solid breath before you start playing, but allow the breath to expand your lungs fully. You can finish your breath, and even when you finish taking in air, your lungs are still expanding for a split second. But it makes a difference. I've tried experimenting, where you play, you go bam and play, or as opposed to bam, play. And so in the heat of battle, when you're actually playing, do you have the opportunity to do that? Not always, but you train yourself to, unless you're like taking a big breath of air right in the middle of a phrase where you haven't got much time, training yourself to do that. The more important thing, quite frankly, though, is to always make sure that you're listening to what you sound like. James Morrison, the great musician, great trumpet player, everything player from Australia, is a buddy, and we've played together many times, and I've had literally hours and hours long conversations about that very concept, where when you're playing, you just want to make sure that you're not going through the motions. When I talk to younger students, I say, you're doing all the things you need to do. We're thinking about where the fingers go and where the embouchure goes and how the throat is and the air, and looking at the notes and reading the rests and the note qualities and the time signature and the key signature and the accidentals and the dynamics and all these different things. And then if you start improvising, wow, that takes up a whole other bit of concentration, right? So you're doing all these things and you put them together and then you just do it. And so the problem is, a lot of times you're doing all those things correctly, but you still don't sound good. Why is it that we don't sound good? The reason is because we're not really paying attention to the end result. It should be, the whole process should be that in reverse, where if you just listen to what you're sounding like, then you're really your body's going to say, oh, well, my ear wasn't prepared correctly. And then your mind just tells your body automatically to do what it needs to do to sound good. Good. Is that balanced okay?
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing.
So if you're improvising something, or you're as you play, you're articulating, what's determining how loud a part of a phrase should be, or where to articulate, or where to end, where to begin, what to play. Your musical sensibility, should determine all those things. But if you're not really paying attention, you're not really concentrating on exactly what you're sounding like, then, let me put it in a positive. If you do think about and really concentrate fully on what is coming out of your horn, then you're always going to sound good. A silly, crass way to say it is just don't allow yourself to suck. I mean, it's silly, but it's true. Always make sure you sound good. Never allow yourself not to sound good. Are you is that always going to work? No. You're always, if you're a golfer, you're always trying to get a hole in one, right? You're not trying to, you know, get to the hole in more hits of I don't play golf, so obviously more strokes than you need to. But are you going to hit a hole in one every time? No, rarely. So are you going to play exactly how you have it in your head every time? No, I wouldn't say rarely, but that's not only the goal, but that's our motivation. That's the motivation for me to get up in the morning and practice and feel comfortable. Our playing is always best when we don't have to think about it, when we don't have to think about the mechanics of it, I should say. If the less you have to worry about the mechanics or the read or the fact that you aren't, sufficiently warmed up, the more you can concentrate on just the music that you're making.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I feel like recording yourself and then listening back and saying, is that something that I would pay to listen to? It really helps me, and of course it's very humbling. But I find that then exactly like what you're saying, then you work your way backwards. Okay, well, why did that not work, or why does that sound not ideal, and what do I need to do then, of course, to fix that and get it a little bit better? And then I just sit there and I just record the same thing over and over and over, and for an hour maybe, and then see if I've made some improvement. But it always, or one thing that I'm just thinking here is that I imagine, though, that recording yourself, even when I was really young, was not a common thing. That was not something that you typically would sit there and record yourself practicing all the time, just because it wasn't very logistically feasible for a lot of people. But yet, people found a way to really come through with their own sound. Let's talk about the setup that you've got. As I understand it, you've got the same horn that you've had throughout your career.
Ta-da! Yeah, I've got the same horn that I bought when I was in high school. I've got other altos for sure, but this is my baby, my Mark 6. And yeah, it's just a really great horn. That I have people I know who have great horns, and they leave them in their closet, and they go on the road and say, "Oh, I don't want to take my best horn out on the road," and I don't want to take a chance. And I did that for a minute, and I realized, well, I'm on the road a lot. I mean, why let my best sound stay at home when I'm not as comfortable on something that I'm worried about losing on the road? I've been traveling for a long time, and one time I did come a little bit close, but other than that, out of a lot of opportunities to screw up, I've managed not to lose or have my horn get stolen, knock on wood. And yeah, so it's a Mark 6, and my tenor is also a somewhat Mark 6. My soprano is a Yamaha YSS 62. Really just a magic horn. I just love it. And yeah, and my mouthpiece. Oh, you're asking, I'm sorry, you asked about the, oh, you're asking about the mouthpiece. Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, that's the Eric Marienthal special mouthpiece. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, that's I played another mouthpiece for a long, long time, and about 7 years ago or so, Joel Peskin and Bob Shepard from Retro Revival asked me if I would consider, trying to put a mouthpiece together of my own, and we spent about 2 years and actually got it. So really stoked with it. It's really feels very, very comfortable. The thing I love about it is it's easy. I like it's easy to play. It's easy to find reeds for, and it has a little bit. To me, it has a lot more depth of sound. It's there's more overtones down low and up top, and it's just and it's easier to articulate. Those ones will come out too.